Good morning, everyone. Got your coffee? I got mine. It's another rainy day in Columbia, South Carolina. It's good for my garden, it's good for my outdoor plants, but it's not good for touching dirt. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't go outside and you can't, fumble around in your garden. Although yesterday I was able to harvest a whole mess of bell peppers. Remember that dream I told you that I had the day before yesterday where the world was falling all around me and I was just outside, picking bell peppers? It's that time. The one thing about homegrown bell peppers, that's the only time that I make this soup called stuffed bell pepper soup, because you have all your homegrown ingredients. You got your tomatoes, you got your peppers, you've got your jalapenos, you got your onions, and it makes for the best soup, and you can really taste the difference. Even my husband, whose palate isn't as sophisticated as mine, can tell the difference between the store-bought version, which I no longer make anymore, and the homegrown version of that soup. I'm trying to tell y'all, a garden is what's up. But anyway, it's raining, and I'm not going to be able to get out my garden today. And the guy who cuts my lawn, my landscaper, Chris, he's probably not going to come today either, because it's been raining a lot, and he's probably backed up. I like for my lawn, that's one of the things that I will invest in. I like a lot of curb appeal, so I will invest in a lovely, beautiful lawn. When I first moved into my house here in South Carolina, they will park on the grass in a heartbeat. So a lot of people don't have beautiful lawns, like back home in Michigan. Michigan, man, when I tell you, people invest in their lawns in Michigan. I mean, they do. I mean, it's a real thing in Michigan. Beautiful lawns. And coming from Michigan and then coming here and just seeing the way people, I mean, the heat makes the grass all crunchy and everything, unless you got sprinkler systems. And don't get me wrong, it's not all people in South Carolina, but where I live, a lot of these people will park their cars on their lawn. Like, that is a real thing. In Michigan, they give you a ticket for that shit. Like, you can't park your car on your lawn in Michigan. So it was real odd to come here and to see so many people with that habit. And then not, and I get it, it just in my opinion, it just looks really tacky. And it's just, and you see a lot of it now because, everyone is living in the house now. Everybody is coming home to stay and sharing homes because of the high rents. So it just like a mess to me. But anyway, long story short, I really do invest in my lawn. I like a beautiful lawn. I do. Whenever lawn people come around, like Kim Long, and they try to sell something, they always come knock on my door. Even though my door says no soliciting, please, and don't try to sell me shit. They still come, they still ignore it. And, and I ignore them, always to let them know that I'm ignoring them, like they're ignoring my sign. I'll say hello, and then they'll say, hold on, this is my husband checking on me to make sure I got in the house safe. Okay. So, anyway, and then they, I always say, hello. And then they go, yeah, this is such and such from such and such. And then I'll say, just a minute. And then I'll just go back to whatever I was doing. And I'll leave them standing out there. Because if you're going to ignore my sign, I'm going to ignore you. Anyway, y'all didn't need to hear all of that. I'm just rambling this morning. But let me tell you, I have to thank some people. I'm going to be able to do, not only is the library pantry getting new toys, but I'm able to put in another second order today. And I just thank you guys so much. Jericho, you said it was a blessing. I almost bought a new caftan because we know, but I didn't. I don't want to, at this point, I don't want to consume more products and goods because I plan on moving, and so I don't want more to pack. So I'm going to rock and roll with the ones that I have. I already have to sell off a lot of things. Not that I would ever sell my caftans. I would never do that. But still, I mean, you know what I mean. So I decided to put that into the Canada Kitty. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jericho. Jericho be rocking with me. And then Leisha, thank you so much for that, sister. Thank you so much. I know you wanted yours to go towards the library pantry, and you're one of the reasons why we're going to be able to do another order. I'm going to be able to get more. The kids are very fond of bubbles. Like I said, somebody suggested that a long time ago, and I only recently started putting that in there. And like I said yesterday, I was worried about it maybe getting in the kid's eye or something like that, but they have it non-toxic. which goes to show how old I am. I didn't know they had non-toxic versions of bubbles but when you owe, you owe. When you know better, you do better, right? Right? Right. Okay. So anyway, listen, let me tell y'all what I want to talk about today. One thing about me is that I don't really talk on people's kids. I don't. I feel like them your kids, raise your kids. I raised mine. Them, I try not to have opinions about stuff like that. I try to mind my own business. I do. And yesterday we were talking about, this is what we have to do in the Black community, because we have to have these really hard discussions that nobody wants to have, because everybody has these feelings of guilt that come up, because they know that they are guilty in some way, and so they will project that onto you. But that's okay. I'm built for it. I'm built for hard conversations. I really am, because I've had to have hard conversations so early on in my life with people who wanted to sweep things under the rug where I was concerned, ignore things, not hold themselves accountable. They wanted to hold me accountable just fine, but they didn't want to hold themselves accountable. And I'm especially used to dealing with adults who are like that. So with that being said, when we talked about the harm that some Black men do in the Black community, one of the things that we need to go a step further with that, and we need to normalize the same men, the red pill men, the Black men who hate Black women, the Black men who can't take a no when Black women want to say no, Black men who are making the community unsafe for Black women. These are not just the Black men who hurt and harm Black women. These are not just the Black men who murder Black women at a rate of 1 every 4.5 hours in this nation. They hurt the kids too. And we have to go a step further, and we have to say that. They are the ones that make it unsafe for the kids, the children too. And I also want to speak on the women the pick-me's, who protect them, who want to sweep it under the rugs, who will not hold themselves and these men accountable and make it easy for these men to access children. I don't know what's wrong with all of y'all, but y'all really need some serious mental fucking help. Y'all really do. Y'all need some serious mental help. It's long past the time when we need to start calling all of y'all out. We do. We need to start calling everyone who does harm to the children in our community, myself included, because I am not innocent. I'm not innocent. I may not have been harmful in that way, but I've been harmful in other ways. I have. And I had to sit with myself in therapy, and I had to be honest about who I was, because the only way I was going to be somebody else, I was going to be better, was to do that. But you have to have the backbone to do it, because it takes work. And only cowards are walking around not owning the harm that they have committed in our community. Y'all got to do better. Otherwise, the community will not be safe for women, and it will not be safe for children. These are the same men. If a man is hating on a Black woman, disrespecting a Black woman, abusing a Black woman, look at the kids around him. If he hate a Black woman, how do you think he feel about a little Black girl? If he's a problem to other Black men, what do you think he is to little Black boys? And vice versa is true. When you see that they are harmful to children, see how they treating the women in their lives. I can't believe I'm about to go here, but I'm about to go here. I remember when I told my mother about my stepfather. I don't know, really, I sometimes you will hear me refer to him as stepfather because she's the man he married. He wasn't my father, but he adopted me, and I thought this man was my father up until I was about 12 years old when she told me the truth out of anger during their divorce. And sometimes I'll refer to him as my brother's father so that I don't have I don't claim any type of ownership over this monster, because that's what he was. He was a whole sadist. And I remember, you all know my history. My mother accused me of lying when I told her, and she became abusive in that moment. And this is something that she held against me for my whole entire life, the way she treated me from that moment on. But I remember this one time, I was at my grandmother's house and I was sitting at the table, and she was at the head of the table and she was doing a crossword and I was doing my homework. And I don't know what made me ask her, but I did, just out of the blue. I remember this like it was yesterday, literally like it was yesterday. And I said, Grandma, and she said, mm-hmm. And she looked over her glasses and she was doing a word search. She loved doing word searches. And I said, why is it that when I told my mother about that, she didn't believe me, but you did, about being molested? Why didn't, I said, why did, because my grandmother believed me right off. She never fucking questioned it. She never fucking questioned it. She, right off the bat, she believed it. Immediately she believed it. She never questioned it. Not like my mother did. And the first thing my grandmama said to me was, she believed you. And I said, no, she didn't. She said, yes, she did. She believed you. I said, well, why did you believe me? She said, and she looked me dead ass in my face, and I never fucking forget this. And she said to me, because of the things she said he did to her. And I remember I took that in and then I just packed it away because it was too much to deal with at that time and I didn't understand that. So that was my mind protecting me. Now, obviously that came out years later in therapy, because in dealing with that, what I had to admit was that she knew this man was capable of it. She called me a liar and held it against me anyway. She knew he did it because she knew what he was. We got to start, we got to start calling y'all women out too. We got to start calling y'all out. Because y'all helping these men traumatize the children. The men who are the red pill men, the men who got, and he was all that. He was a red pill type. He had problems with black women. He was abusive towards me. He was a whole fucking sadist and a pedophile, a child molester, Chester the molester. It's a strong correlation between those types of men and pedophiles. Real strong correlation. And we got to start attaching all of that to those types of men. No more pussyfooting around and dancing around that. We got to stop that. We got to just start calling a thing a thing. If you abusive, you abusive. If you fucked up, you fucked up. If you violent and you dangerous, you violent and you dangerous. We got to stop. We got to start calling those men out. We got to start calling out all of their issues. And we got to start calling out the women who protect them. This brings me to my point. That little girl, Miss Shirley. In the beginning, I'm not gonna hold you up. In the beginning, I didn't see a problem. I didn't see a real problem. And trust me when I tell you, because of my history, I tend to be very conservative about these types of things. Very much so. If it were my granddaughter, would I have a problem with her? I mean, nah. I mean, I remember the line dance, back, we did hustles. I remember growing up seeing my aunts and uncles hustle and shit, do line dances. My eyes don't cry. No, we all did it. And we couldn't wait till we got grown so they could let us in them line dances. But it wasn't like then, it ain't like it is now. It wasn't as sexualized. And I didn't see that problem with her, even though it was people are saying that it's a grown song, it's an adult song. And I listened to the lyrics, and the songs aren't overly sexual, but it does talk about drinking moonshine, which is a very adult activity. But I mean, you can't be 100% with these kids all the time. And someone who, like me, who believes that kids shouldn't listen to certain types of rap music, certain types of sexual music. You know, I wasn't tripping off that one little issue. And, you know, and her movements weren't sexualized. But then she started throwing her hip and slanging her little booty. And I'm like, okay, I got a problem with that. But I'm like, this ain't my kid. It ain't for me to say. I don't know these people. Then I'm seeing her on talk shows and still, you know, like I remember when she was on the one with Niecy Nash recently. And I was looking at Niecy Nash, look at her, and it kind of felt like Niecy Nash wasn't 100% comfortable with what she was saying. If you go back and look at that, but she didn't say anything. J Hud seemed to be okay with it, but Niecy Nash didn't seem to be completely comfortable with it. And I wouldn't have been either. Would I have let a little girl on my show throwing her booty like that? No, I would not have. But then, you know, I'm from a different time. I'm from a different generation. And not only that, but I've got all this history. And I do know one thing about pedophiles is that, you know, if they're attracted to children, it doesn't really matter what the child is doing. But if they are attracted to children, and if the child is doing things that is attractive to the pedophile becomes more attractive to the child. I can tell you that. So that's why so many of her videos are saved like that. And then somebody said that somebody called CPS on her. And I saw where the mother was, I saw clips and stuff. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was seeing clips where she was saying people was hating and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, I still really didn't have no opinion. I thought maybe they are, but maybe people are genuinely concerned. Who's to say? I stayed out of it. Then this video pops up. Excuse me. This video pops up where Johnny Gill's My 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 is playing. And it's, you know, slip on your red dress. You know, well, put on your red dress. Put on your... Okay, but I love this song. Put on your red dress and slip on your high heels. You know, and some of that sweet perfume. It sure smells good on you. You know, man, I love that song. I love me some Johnny Gill back in the day, baby. He could have got me pregnant. Okay, I loved me some J Gill back in the day. Baby, you can't tell me. But anyway, we all know that is a very sexual type of song. And to see this little girl with a little tight red dress on, putting on her mama's heels and everybody, and then, you know, and then you got so many black women being weird. And they're saying that now this is where, you know, this is where black women need to be like, this is the cutoff for me. We all know what that song is. We all know, all of us got kids running around right now because of that song. Please stop. Please stop. And she's putting on lip gloss. And she's, you know, no. And black women are saying we all did that in our, you know, when we was little. And that's true. I remember slipping on my mama's heels. And I remember putting on her lipstick. And I remember her helping with me and playing with me. You know what I'm saying? And playing dress up with me. I remember that. But listen, she never would have put that shit on the internet. That would have been just for me and her. And my mama is a weirdo. And I can tell you, she wouldn't have been okay with that. Putting it on the internet for all these other weirdo men to see. That's weird. That's weird, y'all. And then apparently the guy who called CPS, he didn't step forward and he said, yeah, that was the video that made me immediately pick up the phone and call CPS on her. Now it's a whole investigation. All of this hip rolling, booty popping. And I'm like, okay, you know, this still ain't my child. But then, come to find out, this is where I scrimped. This is where I screamed. She doing meet and greets, and grown men are driving 3 hours to take photos with her where they got her picked up and they hugging on her and kissing on her, and the mama is standing right there letting them. Now, this is where we go into grooming. This is grooming, y'all. Grooming is a psychological process in which a victim is psychologically led to believe that what is happening to them is okay and not of the norm. It's where you make your victim more pliable, more permissible, to where they are okay with what's happening to them, even though their spirit is fighting against you. The only reason why my molestation did not go as far as it did is because he didn't succeed in grooming. He cared an awful lot what people thought about him, what society, as long as society thought he was the masculine man, the big man, the good man, the man that would buy all the kids ice cream on the block, that man. He wasn't convinced that I wouldn't tell, and I did tell. I did end up telling. He wasn't convinced yet, and that's the only reason why. But he was escalating. And as you get groomed, it escalates. Just like how her situation is escalating. First, it's just a little girl doing the steps. And then the steps are very, very childlike. And then she goes from doing kid parties to adult trail, whatever those are called. And then next thing you know, she's in adult clubs. And then the next thing you know, she popping her booty and throwing her hip. And the next thing you know, she putting on her red dress. And then the next thing you know, full-grown men are handling her. What's next? This is grooming. And it's escalating. And yeah, I agree. Child services should have been called in. Tell me what you think below in the comments. In the meantime, if you would like to support the platform, I will leave my Cash App and my Venmo down in the comments. If you would like to support The Great Escape, I'll leave that information too. Y'all have a good day and let me know what you think about it.